From the kitchen of the cabin,
it's the 5 Games for Doomsday news
with Ben and Steve.
28, Ben.
I don't know what 28 refers to, Steve.
28.
What does 28 refer to, Steve?
I was at a friend's birthday party last night.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yep. And, granted the bar was a bit dim.
Yeah.
But, we just got into chatting about age for some reason. I think my friend whose birthday it was wanted her friend to guess my age.
Yeah.
Right? I think she was 29.
I fucking hate this.
She looks me up and down.
I hate this story for a couple of reasons.
With surety.
Yeah.
Pronounces 28. I think you are 28 years old. Then her friend came.
Yeah.
And she guessed 32, but she did it in this sort of timid way. I don't want to offend you.
I have an issue with this story for a couple of reasons.
28 years old.
One, they have to have been disingenuous, no offense, but you don't look 28.
They were Canadian.
Well, there we go. Secondly, it's quite boring as well. It's like this, people, no offense to you, but people telling you your age, it's a bit like you telling me what you dreamt last night. It's fucking boring.
They could have guessed 35. That would have been reasonable, but 28.
What you had for lunch, boring.
Yeah.
Like all of those sort of fucking conversations.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
what you're trying to say is you're extremely fucking jealous.
That
I look like I'm in the prime of youth. An Adonis.
I mean, that's the word I would use. So, I think we can all agree, fuck events, right?
What's wrong with an event?
So,
I like an event.
Explain to the listeners, this is the preamble to this news show. We're on location.
Yep. So, one of my first roommates when I was living in New York City, she's from Taiwan.
Yeah.
And she moved back to Taiwan like some years ago.
Okay.
I think after I moved here. And she has actually flown all the way from Taiwan just to run the Berlin Marathon, which is what's happening right now.
And we are currently walking alongside the Berlin Marathon. We nearly got run over by a load of runners trying to cross the road. It was very exciting.
I think this is extremely inspirational to see all these people trying to push and challenge themselves. I'm thinking I should do this myself. I've always wanted to run a marathon. I've never done it because I have kind of bad knees and I just don't know that I could do it. But I could try. I could train.
1 hour,
I could give it a
50
try.
minutes, Steve.
Look at this. You get to run for 3.5 hours while people cheer you on.
1 hour, 50 minutes is my best half marathon time.
So what do you think your full marathon time would be? Just double that, right?
Just double that, innit?
Yeah. We should train together and we should record episodes for the listeners about our progress.
It'd be great, wouldn't it?
Like the first day, we get up.
Aching.
We get up at 5 a.m. We put on our running shoes. We grab our water. Go out running. 5 minutes later, straight to the bar.
Straight to the bar.
This.
I went running yesterday. I ran 8 kilometers yesterday.
You should be doing this. How come you're not in the marathon? I would be on the side right now. Burn!
Because 8 kilometers and 42 kilometers, I'm not much good at maths, but that's different.
You could be repping 5 Games for Doomsday right now, running this with a big t-shirt on. One of your many, many t-shirts.
I keep getting sent loads of t-shirts. I've got a lot of merch. Anyway, so this is the preamble to the news show. This time there's going to be a lot of interviews because I just ended up contacting people and some people contacted me asking if I wanted to interview them. So I did because you never turned down an offer. But this was almost a very sad month, Steve.
Why is that?
Because we almost didn't get any Patreon backers, and then someone swooped in at the last minute.
Who is this hero?
And saved us. I haven't opened the Patreon app in 2 days. Maybe they've cancelled their pledge.
Listen, everybody listening, you need to tell your friends, pledge, but toward the end of the month. Just so we get this lift.
Exactly.
It's more dramatic this way.
So, I'm going to tell you their name.
Yep.
And this is an AC/DC song they're playing that sounds like every other AC/DC song. So, I'm going to give you their name, you're going to give them their...
I didn't realize until way later that they're an Australian band.
Really?
Yeah.
They are Australian, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to give you their name and you're going to give them their compound nickname, Steve.
All right, I'm ready.
Alan Rochetti. Sounds like a Victorian poet, that, doesn't it?
Alan Confetti Rochetti. Because wherever Alan goes, there's a party happening. I know this.
I can imagine Alan's a party animal.
Alan Confetti Rigetti, thank you for your pledge. What level is he pledged at?
$5, I think.
So
he gets access to all the back.
He gets the
room
battle
stuff.
reports.
He gets the battle reports.
All right, should we cross here? So
Yeah. So for the listeners, we're just crossing the road. I'd imagine you've never heard a live road crossing on a podcast before, so it's very exciting.
all right, we're in the middle, and
Hi, we're back on the page. We survived, Steve. We survived.
so I need to find my friend.
Yeah.
She's going to be running along here. Maybe we wait along. I think she's actually pretty close. Yep. Maybe 5-10 minutes.
Okay, so let's answer a question, a viewer's question.
A viewer.
A viewer's question. I've downloaded the random number generator and we have number 6, Steve.
Number 6.
And number 6 is...
Hope it's a good one. I hope it's about board games.
It's from Scott Christley. What games did you want to like but just didn't for whatever reason?
Oh, I mean, the obvious one is Orleans Stories, isn't it? And it isn't whatever reason, it's because it's garbage.
That's a real tragedy, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Orleans Stories.
Yeah, real tragedy. I mean, I was like, that was going to be my game of Essen that year that it came out. It was actually like big box, not that expensive. We were all looking forward to it. Sat down, just made no sense, went nowhere, didn't end, couldn't win.
We had to cheat to get to the final stage of the game.
Yeah, we had to house rule it.
Because it just didn't work. The game didn't function. And it's such a shame because Orleans is so great, right?
Yeah.
Orleans is such a classic game. It's up there in my top 10, I think. And it's brilliant and it's wonderfully designed. And that was just a bag of shite.
I got another one. I'm always banging on about Orleans Stories. This is going to be a little controversial.
Yeah.
Twilight Imperium. The first time I played it, it was the 3rd edition.
Right.
And I bought it in like the early 2000s when it came out. Super expensive. Like back then, I had never spent this much on a board game.
Sure.
And I assumed for $80 or whatever it was, it looked amazing. It had to be amazing. I played it, and it was dreck to me. I could not get into it.
Twilight Imperium 3rd edition is dog shit. I think Twilight Imperium 4th edition is passable.
I still don't want to play it.
But compared,
mostly, I don't get why people are into it.
But compared to Eclipse,
but I wanted to like it.
Eclipse is so good. It's so well designed. It's so much fun, and it's such a great puzzle. And Twilight Imperium 4, I mean, I'm not a big Ameritrash fan anyway, and it's you know what the problem is? It feels willfully long. The rules, it seems like the rules are there to make the game last 8 hours, because it lasting 8 hours is its USP.
I think I can't get into the science fiction themes either. I don't know. It's so contrived, and all this plastic shit on the board you have to worry about and manipulate and upgrade, and then you do these battles, and I don't care. It doesn't make me care about what's going on in the game. I got one more. All right.
But
I'm wondering, it might be yours.
You're on one today.
It might be yours.
I just noticed how bouffon-y your hair is today.
Well,
you look a bit like Elvis today.
I think it's the water. We have like a new filter on the shower head.
Okay. It's very.
I think you should take a photo for the newsletter.
You should stick some product in it.
Normally I do. I just didn't do it today.
It's very puffy today.
All right, number three.
And in this light, you've actually got quite a lot of grey. Must have been very dim in that bar.
You can have grey at 28. People do.
That's true.
Some people go grey in their early 20s, right? 28 years old, Ben.
Yeah, carry on.
Look at this
boring.
Smooth, youthful face.
It's a boring story. Carry on.
All right, number 3. I hope this isn't your pick. If it is, you take it away.
Yeah.
Number 1 of these 3. This is like the number 1 game I wanted to like and didn't. Oath.
Oh,
Oath.
That's not my pick, but Oath.
This is the pick.
You know, this is a controversial statement because you should never yuck on people's yum, right?
Yeah.
But I think there is such a. I think because Cole has designed good games in the past and he's so erudite and clever, I think people. And he has such rigorous intellectual conceits for his games that people kind of feel they have to say that it's great, because if you don't say it's great, you're somehow not clever enough to appreciate it.
I think it's also the one that we're most likely to be wrong about.
No,
I'm pretty settled in my opinion about Twilight Imperium, and maybe it's just a matter of taste. I'm pretty sure Orleans Stories is like objectively awful.
No, it's broken.
Oath, like maybe, arguably, we didn't give it enough of a chance.
I played it 4 times, Steve.
People say you have to play it more than that. You have to like somehow let the story unfold.
Fuck off, I'm sorry. If a game, I played it 4 times. How many games in your collection have you played 4 times?
Were you so disappointed with this game it made you angry?
I gave it such a chance, and it annoys me that people go, oh no, you have to play it like 20 times before you enjoy it. Well, then what the fuck is the point in that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree.
I think it has a sort of it's all brain and no heart for me.
It's very high concept. It's exactly the kind of game somebody with a PhD would design.
Right, and it's the kind of thing that I don't like particularly.
What do you mean?
I don't like high concept stuff. I like stuff that's visceral and, you know, has got a bit of heart to it. I don't like airy intellectual shit. It's why Shakespeare is so much better than Marlowe. You know what I mean? Marlowe's all head. Shakespeare's all testicles. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, what are the aspects of Oath that turned you off? I didn't like how they're like, there's like all these different like banks that you have to worry about.
Yeah.
So they're like multiple goals. You're like stealing these like banners or whatever from.
None of it felt thematic. None of the actions felt impactful.
Yeah.
I got to the end of a game and
you have to write this dumb story about like not much.
So
not much happens. You have to write a story. You don't feel like you can do much. You can get stuck. I think this is the biggest criticism.
And you know, it has that mechanism where you roll a die, and if you roll a certain number, the game ends. And every time we got to the round where you can start rolling the die, I was like, oh, please roll the number.
Yeah, we're hoping for it.
That night, we played Oath, and then we played Hansa Teutonica. And my God, what a difference.
Yeah.
What a difference.
Hansa Teutonica, no theme, no story, just
amazingly tight and brutal game mechanics. It is absolutely wonderful. So, which brings me to my choice,
all right,
which is very apropos.
Apropos.
That's how you say it.
Okay.
Of Hansa Teutonica, because it's by the same designer of Hansa Teutonica, and I've never played a game, I don't think, that's made me as angry.
Okay, so I can't guess.
Andreas Seifert, I think. No, Andreas Seifert is
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. Who designed Hansa Teutonica?
Is it Andreas Steding?
Andreas Steding. So, he designed a game.
Man, I am like balls deep in this hobby if I can actually recall the designers of board games.
Middle-aged German men. So, this game came out and I wanted to love it because I love Hansa Teutonica and I think this design is going to be amazing. And then we played it, and 2 turns in, not my 2 turns, just 2 turns into the game, I was like, I hate this game. It incentivizes the boring action every time. It is no fun. It is fundamentally uninteresting.
I know what game you're talking about.
I've never been angrier, I don't think.
I know what game you're talking about. I still think you were having a bad night, and you have said in the past you would give it another chance.
And this was Gugong. I fucking hated this game. I've played games I don't like before, but this one, I was like, this is so... It's like it functions, but it just incentivizes you to make the boring choice every fucking time. And fundamentally, games have to make you feel empowered and make you feel clever. And Gugong, it was just like, oh, well, this is boring, but I have to do it because this is where you get the points from.
You were just having a bad night.
You see, this is the point. Because you fucking went balls deep on the Kickstarter and now you have the expansion, you want me to like it.
Ben, we've got to play it one more time. Please. Gugong Battle Report, say whatever you want. I don't care.
Fucking hate it.
Come on. Gugong with the Ponjun expansion Battle Report.
All right, so next question, Steve. What number are you hoping for?
11.
Why 11?
It's the first number I thought of.
How do you know?
How do I know?
How do you know you didn't subconsciously think of another number and your brain just fooled you into picking 11?
I don't think I can, find my way out of that cognitive trap you've just laid.
All right, random number generator, Steve.
31.
Which...
That's 13 backwards.
we can't have 31.
Why not?
Because I just deleted a question. There were 31. We've had 30. So I'll just go to number 30, Steve. Right.
Now you know how the sausage is made, fans.
Okay, this question fucking befuddles me. This is a standard popular culture question, and it fucking befuddles me. I'm going to ask you first, and then I will explain why I find it so befuddling.
So it's not a board game question?
No. So this is Sam Tribby, and he asks, Beatles or Stones? Steve.
Oh, one of these. All right, is this like a Pulp Fiction type question?
Yeah.
Beatles or Stones? I mean, Beatles, I guess. But I don't have anything interesting to say about why.
So,
I guess I've listened to them more. They speak to me more. They had an interesting evolution. The Stones are kind of just the Stones. They seem very generic. I know you're going to say something about the Stones are posh and the Beatles are working class.
I mean, that is true.
There's something to that, I'm sure.
This isn't...
The Beatles are legendary. The Stones are just long. They have longevity.
This is not a class question, although most of the things I talk about are class questions. This isn't a class question.
That's the best I can do.
I don't know how this question has become a sort of meme in popular culture.
I think Pulp Fiction.
Because you have, right?
Pulp Fiction is Elvis or the Beatles, though, isn't it?
Yeah. You have the greatest band of all time that broke musical boundaries, that was simply incredible. Not only was their music boundary defying, it was also catchy and brilliant at the same time. It was intellectual rigor, craft and heart, all mixed. Absolutely.
And they even
fucking Elvis was shit as well, by the way. Even that's not even a question.
They even had an experimental phase.
And then, which was still brilliant.
Yeah.
Then you have a fucking blues band, like an average blues band, who wrote a couple. Gimme Shelter's great, okay? Gimme Shelter's great, but the Stones are just bang average. They're a bang average band. I can give you 100 bands I think are far better than the Stones.
So are you offended by this question?
I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it how you compare. It's like comparing Italian food with a pot noodle. You know what I mean? Why would you compare them? Why would you compare fucking perfection to meh, all right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a question to be asked. The Beatles are astonishing. The Stones are bang average.
Well, I think they know where we stand on this.
Absolutely.
Hey, we agreed for once.
Yeah. And I was more erudite on explaining than you.
Yeah, you're better with music than I am.
Do you think I'm cleverer than you are?
Sure. Let's say yes.
News. So I'm honoured to have here one of the most recognisable, prolific artists in the board game world. This is Jacqui Davis. Jacqui, welcome to the 5G4D News.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I was just listening to your last episode, actually.
Oh, lovely. Thank you very much. So my first question is, so I'm sure most people listening to this will know who you are, but for those few who don't, sort of, who are you? What do you do? And how did you get into the sort of field that you work in now?
Okay, well, hi, everyone. I'm Jacqui. I do, art for board games. I've been doing that since, I figured it out just this year, 10 years now, actually. So since 2012. And I actually got into it by accident, really, just by applying for a few freelance jobs while I was looking for a job in animation. But I enjoyed doing board games so much, I've just stuck around. So,
and you have a very sort of unique style. What's your training and how did you develop that sort of the very unique style that you have?
Originally, actually, I went to uni for 2D animation is what I've got my degree in. And so that's sort of, I suppose, where it's come from, is watching a lot of, those classic, obviously, Disney films. And Prince of Egypt, actually, which is DreamWorks, was my favourite movie ever. So growing up, I did a lot of, copying of, Disney characters the way you do. So that's really where it comes from, is... that's what I liked watching and stuff, was 2D animation.
And were you one of those kids who was just constantly drawing stuff? Were you sort of great at it from the start?
I don't think great, but my mum likes to tell the story that when I was little, she was drawing a horse for me, and I just kept on telling her she was doing it wrong. So she just handed me the paper, so I'll do it yourself. So I suppose I've been drawing since I was very little because she got fed up with me telling her she was doing it wrong. But yeah, I always like to sort of sit down and, draw my own world. I seem to remember I had a whole sketchbook filled up with this little Martian civilization I invented when I was like 12 or something. So I was always sitting there doodling, while we were watching TV and that kind of thing.
And so, what are the challenges of doing the art for board games? You sort of fallen into it. Is it a challenging thing, or is it something you find quite easy to do?
I think the most challenging thing about it is sort of obviously making it work with the game mechanics. That you get like, if the game obviously is supposed to be playable as well as just look good. Which is why I really like, a really good graphic designer will help a lot with that, because you get the layouts first and, they'll tell you exactly what you need to do. So that's what I find that the trickiest is just making it work, so it works with the game as well as just looking good.
So we're not here today to talk about your game work, actually. We're here to talk about a new project that you have. You've written a book. So can you tell us about this?
Yeah, sure. That's been going on. Another reason why I draw a lot actually was because I just wanted to draw my own characters. So I was like, I'm going to get good at drawing people because I want to draw my characters. A friend and I, she's also an artist, Katie Grierson. She also actually works in board games. We sort of started playing in this world in 2007, I think is the oldest doodle I've found. So that must be the start date. So it's sort of like an RP, but not quite like D&D. It was just written, so I would write from a character's point of view, and then she would write from her character's point of view, back and forth. And we invented so much lore at some point in the mid-2010s. So we should probably, we could write this out as a story if we wanted to. So we did. We did a very rough first draft, but knowing nothing about writing a book. It was like 3 books worth of book. So in 2021 or 2021, I obviously had quite a lot of time because I wasn't going anywhere for obvious reasons. So I thought, I might as well actually take a look at that draft, and I'll just quickly, I'll rewrite it so we can actually publish it, and it'll be fun to self-publish it, something to do, learn how to do that. And then, it turns out it's taken a lot longer than I thought it would, a lot more effort. So that's been fun because one thing led to another. And I thought, well, I might as well do the cover for it as I am an artist. Why not? And then you go, well, as I've done the cover, we might as well do interior illustrations because we're both artists. So why not? So, the past year or so, I've been working on the illustrations for that alongside, board game client work and stuff.
And so what is the greatest challenge then of approaching, because I've been attempting to write novels for years and I've never really got past a couple of chapters. I mean, what are the challenges to writing a novel then?
I think the trickiest thing was actually sort of figuring out, that obviously stories have a structure and, what's satisfying to read as a novel is actually different to, for example, the RP, a game. Because novels, you kind of want to have, the characters be different at the end to how they are at the beginning. Otherwise, you read it and go, well, what was the point? And, why did I just take this journey? So I read a really handy book called Saves the Cat Writes a Novel, I think it was, which really sort of helped me when I had a look at the very first draft we did. And I reread that and went, I can see, why we went wrong now. What was, wrong with this? And that helped sort of me to redraft it and rewrite it. So it is actually, now a novel with a good arc. Well, I hope a good arc, for all the characters. So that was the trickiest thing, is just actually figuring out how to structure a story.
And so tell us, give us an overview of the world, give us an overview of the story and sort of, don't spoil anything, but sort of give us the elevator pitch.
All right, well, I've taken my elevator pitch at the moment is sort of like The Emperor's New Groove meets The Revenant, in that it's a spoiled king and he has a really bad time in the snow. Two of my favorite things are sort of I don't know. So I love history, and especially the Plantagenets and stuff. And this idea of, kings where they were born to lead a country, and you might not have a good one. They didn't know when this little kid is born that if it's going to be a good leader or not. The poor kid doesn't really have a choice either. And also just, I don't know why, I'm a big fan of sort of, survival stories where people get lost in the snow and they have to, deal with nature. So that's sort of the story of the book, is that about this king who his people find a new land sort of north of where they live, which is, wild and hasn't, and untamed and a lot different to where they are, which is a more sort of Mediterranean kind of climate and sort of, Bronze Age, pharaohs and Egyptians and that kind of feel to them. The world itself is a fantasy world, but not quite Tolkien-esque. There aren't really any dwarves or elves or dragons or anything. We went more in the directions of demons and angels and vampires and, all of that stuff, because, again, people with wings, I think, are just cool.
And so, you've written it with a partner. How did you divide the writing up between you?
The way we did it was sort of very similar to the way we wrote the RP, which is I wrote all the chapters from my character's point of views, and then she wrote the chapters from her character's point of view for the first draft. And then when I went and rewrote the second draft, which is the one that's the final one, I sort of just went and rewrote it all using, Katie's character's dialogue and her point of view, and, just writing it so it looked like one hand had done it. Otherwise, it could be a bit jarring. So yeah, that was just pretty much it. And then obviously whenever I finished anything, would send it back to Katie so that she could read and then give me feedback and change anything that she felt was wrong. That sort of stuff. So it's a lot of back and forth, really.
And so is the book written from the first person, or is it written from the third person?
No, third person. I don't know. I just find it easier to write in third person, and it's also one of the reasons I can't quite. I've tried playing D&D, and I can't quite get into it because if I have to sit there and go, "Ooh, I did this," my brain goes, "No, but we didn't do that." But if it's third person, I find it easier to sort of detach myself and go, "Oh well, Elmayers, he goes and does this, this, and this." So it's all in third person.
And so, so you're going to Kickstarter with this. Why did you decide to go to Kickstarter with this rather than, pitch it to publishers and take it more down a conventional publishing route?
Mostly just because I think we wanted to take it sort of at our own pace, and we also wanted the opportunity to, illustrate it ourselves and just handle, the whole thing ourselves from start to finish. So that when it came out, it's as we would have, as we would want it, because it's mostly, a passion project for us. And we also decided not to self-publish it, the normal way, which is usually through Amazon, KDP or that kind of thing, because we wanted to make it an illustrated book. Print on demand, printing one book at a time, which is what Amazon would do if you wanted a physical copy, I think would make it very expensive for people. So I'm hoping that by kickstarting it, then I can obviously bulk order however many pre-orders we get, which I think will make it just fairer for anyone who is interested. I think that's a fairer way to go for people. So that's why we've gone with Kickstarter, is it's a way of bringing down the costs for everyone and still delivering something that I hope, if I do say so myself, is going to look, very pretty. So that was just it, is just, we can work at our own pace rather than having deadlines or, people waiting on things.
And so give us the logistics then. When does the project start? How much do the pledges cost? When it's going to be delivered? All of that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm hoping to start it in November and to run it for a month, till December. I'm not sure it's going to get delivered by Christmas, but hopefully, the physical copies, hopefully fit by February the following year. You've got me now on the pledge amounts. They might be subject to change because it's being formatted at the moment. So the page count keeps on shifting. At the moment, we've got it down to 396 pages, which is, it has to be on a multiple of 4, which is something I've learned. At the moment, I'm thinking about £12 for the ebook, 22 for paperback, and about 35 for the hardcover. And then we'll also be offering pledges with prints as well. And all the physical copies are going to be signed by both Katie and myself before we post them out. And then some copies of little 6x9 prints as well, for anyone who just wants the art.
And so if people want to find out more about the project before it starts, where can they go?
They can go to sulbook.com. That's SUL, book.com. Or find us on Twitter. I'm at Logic Fairy and Katie's at Kovas Art, which is KOVAHS_art. And the same on Facebook is I've got a art page there, which is just Jacqui Davis Art on Facebook. Or at Logic Fairy on Facebook will point you to the Sol page. But at the moment, it's just got a picture of the cover and the synopsis up there. And on the website, we do have a newsletter if anyone wants to sign up for that. And we just, email people when there is news. So every few weeks ago, we don't spam you or anything. I think that's where we are.
Excellent. Well, Jacqui Davis, thank you very much for coming on, and I wish you the best of luck with the project.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your time. It's been great chatting with you.
News.
Excellent. So I'm honoured to have Helaina Cappel, the head of Burnt Island Games, on the news show this month. So first of all, Helaina, can you tell us about Burnt Island, sort of how you came up with the idea of the company, sort of what the company has done thus far?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, let me say thank you for having me.
No problem at all.
Honored to be a guest and excited to be here talking to you about what we're up to. So Burnt Island is actually our second imprint. We started off with KTBG, which is a family games company, and we make lighter games, but they're strategy games so that younger kids can play with their parents and their parents aren't bored when they're playing. And one day, I had an idea that I wanted to be the next publisher to make Endeavor, which was a game that was originally published by Z-Man. I think it's about 17 years ago now. It was a game that we had very much loved in our game group. And also my husband, Josh, happened to do the art and graphic design for the game. So he sort of had a little bit of an in. And at that point, I knew that our family games company wasn't going to cut it as a publishing company for the game. And so Burnt Island was born. And we actually decided to do some partnering with Mark from Grand Gamers Guild to produce the first in the line of Endeavor games. And that first one was Endeavor Age of Sail. So that's sort of how Burnt Island Games was born.
So how does a company that doesn't exist yet negotiate with the designers of the game to get a game that is, very well regarded? How did you manage to persuade them to go with you and not someone else?
Oh, well, what a good question. I begged them. No. I mean, there was a little bit of like telling them how amazing their game was and how well I would treat it, being that it is and was at that time, especially my favorite game. And it's the game that really got me into publishing. Like I just had a field day with that game. And so I got their information from Josh and cold emailed them and said, hey, I'm running this company. We're seeing some success. I love your game. Are you going to do anything with it? And if you are, can we do that? And they came back to me and said, well, we don't know. We're, maybe going to shop it around, or we'll take it to Kickstarter. And I said, well, if you're going to take it to Kickstarter, I know Kickstarter very well. And so just let me do it. It took some massaging and convincing, and I love the designers. They're really great guys, and they have a great sense of humor, and are pretty serious as well. So I knew that they would want to see that we were very serious about it. And so whatever it was that I said to them, managed to convince them that we were the right company to go with. And I think that we were. I mean, we're going to go big, but we are an indie company. So we were going to still, be in touch with the people and be in touch with them. I think another piece of it was we wanted them to be part of the development process. And I know for a lot of designers, that's a very important piece. And they very much were a part of the development, making the game a little bit more modern, and what people wanted to see. And the whole thing turned out to do very well. The game is still selling very, very well.
Well, what's fascinating is that, this is a new company starting with a new game, but the production of Endeavor didn't at all feel like an indie company. The production was up there with anyone else in the industry. I mean, how difficult was it to do that for, a game of this type?
I think the idea really was to just use a manufacturer that we trusted. And although we were an indie company, we had already produced 4 games. And at that point, we were still only with one manufacturer. So besides the fact that we knew that their products were quality, we also had a very good rapport with them. The communication was fantastic. I mean, even to this day, I don't think that there's a day that goes by that I don't speak to Bing from Bangui, where we just, we sort of grew together. But our creative director, who actually is Josh, the person who did the art and graphic design for the first one, he is really good at communicating what our expectations are in terms of what we want the final product to be. And he did a phenomenal job. But it really is like it takes a whole team of people to make a product like this. Like we had Noah from Game Trays design the inserts, which, I mean, if you've played the first Endeavor and then you've played Endeavor Age of Sail, there is a massive difference between the time it takes you to set up that game, the first game, to what we were able to produce. And that in itself is a really huge feat. So he and his brilliant mind really did a great job with that.
And so you've published, a number of games subsequently from Endeavor. I mean, where does Burnt Island stand now as a company?
Well, we have a really amazing following. We have some really fantastic fans, and I think because this next Endeavor game is going to be our 17th game. We've collected people along the way. We've shown them that not only do we have a superior product, that also we're dedicated to making our backers happy, and really any consumer that wants to be buying and playing our games. We want the best for them. We want them to have the best experience. I think at the end of the day, we're just, a company that is just dedicated to making people feel happy, be happy.
So you've already mentioned it, so we'll move on to it. The reason I contacted you was that I saw that you're publishing a new version of Endeavor. And, I really love the game. So I was fascinated to learn about it. So what is this new version of the game?
So in Endeavor Deep Sea, you are a team of researchers, and you are researching the deep sea. And in this game, you're not playing on a board per se, like you are in Endeavor Age of Sail, where you're spreading around the world. You're actually doing deep sea research. And so the board comes out little by little, and the game area sort of spreads wide and down. So there's a little bit of a difference there. But if you are an Endeavor Age of Sail player, you'll know that each round you take a building and you use the power of that building to do the different things on your turn. In this game, instead of choosing buildings, you're going to be hiring researchers and then leveling them up through the game with experience. And so it's a really interesting way that the designers and the developers of this new Deep Sea game have used some of the mechanics from the first game into this game, and to be able to make it feel like a different thing that you're doing, a different game. It's got a different theme completely. So it's so fresh and new. So we're keeping the engine building part of the game, which is the part that I love the most, and just sort of running with it in a different way.
And so, how similar is it to the original game? Is there room? I mean, of course you're biased, so you're going to give me a certain answer, but I mean, is there room on your shelf for both of them?
There absolutely is room on your shelf for both of them. So like I said, you feel like you're playing a different game, but it's so familiar because there are some of the same actions that you take on your turn, but you'll be doing them for different reasons. And so I feel like for an experienced Age of Sail player, this game is going to be so easy to learn, but feel different, which is really nice. And for those people who have the Age of Expansion, which is the expansion to Age of Sail, you'll know that there were some new things to learn how to do in the game, new symbols and new actions, but the game was exactly the same. So we tried to make that sort of come out in this new game as well. Like you feel like it's familiar, but you are playing a totally different game.
As board games have got more popular, more people have gotten into the hobby, and certain things that we considered acceptable previously are now being criticized and explored. Is it something of a relief to you to move out of the contentious period of history that Endeavor is originally set into a period of history that, isn't going to be scrutinized in the way that the original game has been?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. I had a feeling you would. Yeah, well, I have learned and I have grown over the last 6 or 7 years in a way that I didn't think that I would. When I look at the game Endeavor, the first one before Age of Sail, when I played it, and it's often this way, I play a game purely for mechanisms. I don't get lost in the theme, and especially because it is easy enough to change the theme of the game, and still play it the way it is. At the time we had decided to do this, I was already questioning, should I be the one making this game? Is this really for me? I know that I love it and play it, but it's a different story when you're the publisher of the game. And at the time I felt like, you know what? There is an element of slavery in this game, and I really believed that, a lot of people asked us to take that out, and I was like, yeah, there's no way I am taking that out of the game. This is a thing that happened in history, and I'm not going to pretend that it didn't exist to make people feel better. And I still stand by that, but at the same time, I sort of feel like, did I need to make this game? Do I still need to make this game? I think at the time that we had decided to make it, that I had convinced myself that, it's a story that needed to be told. And now I'm at a point where I don't feel like I'm the one to tell the story. So we're not erasing history. I'm not making that go away. The game still exists. It's out there. But we're just moving into a different direction, as a lot of games do. I look at a game like Clank, for example, and they've gone in all different directions. Just because this one was based in history doesn't mean that we need to continue making it a historical game. And so that's where I sit with this. And like, again, not trying to make the history go away, just I'm making a different game right now.
And so finally then, what are the vital statistics? So I assume the game's going to crowdfunding. When is that? When can we expect the game to be on the table? All of that sort of stuff.
All right, so we are using GameFound this time. We love the audience that GameFound brings, and think that it fits very well with the Endeavor theme. I think that we are good to go for the first quarter of 2023 for crowdfunding, which would mean, hopefully, my fingers are crossed, that we will be able to release it at Essen next year. Fabulous.
Well, Helaina Cappel, thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
News. So I'm delighted to have on the 5G4D News the owner, big brain behind Thunderworks Games, role player, all of that good stuff, and the upcoming game, Dawn of Ulos, and this is Keith Matejka. Keith, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So yeah, basically, most of the people listening to this will be familiar with Thunderworks Games, but for those very few that aren't, can you give us just a brief sort of potted history of the company?
Yeah, so Thunderworks Games, we established in 2013, so we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary here. So at the beginning, it was a kind of a side hustle for me, where it was just me designing games and deciding to throw them up on Kickstarter and publish maybe 1 or 2 games a year. And then some of our games got pretty popular, so that it allowed me to kind of do this full time maybe 3-4 years ago. So the most well-known titles from Thunderworks are Cartographers and Role Player, and then there's also subsequent products kind of expanding both of those things. But we also do kind of things outside of this fantasy world that I've been building, like Tenpenny Parks and Cape May and some other titles. So right now we publish like maybe 3 or 4 games a year. The games this year have been Tenpenny Parks, which I mentioned. We've got some new map packs out for Cartographers, packs 4, 5, and 6, and then we also had the expansion for a game called Lockup, which is also in the same universe as the role player games. So yeah, I mean, Thunderworks is based out of Madison, Wisconsin, USA, kind of the home of Dungeons and Dragons, and there's a very rich gaming culture here. And Thunderworks is like, it is now currently a 3-person company, which it was just me behind my computer, figuring all this stuff out on my own for many years. But that's kind of the short and sweet of it.
Fabulous. So tell us about the new game then, Dawn of Ulos.
Yeah, so Dawn of Ulos is it's a 1 to 5 player fantasy game which is in the same world as these role player games, but it's mechanically disconnected, so you don't have to know anything about role player or anything. And it is at its core, it's an economic game. So you play as one of these 5 different gods, plays 1 to 5 players. In general, like not in general, but as a rule, all Thunderworks titles play down to 1 player. Definitely a big supporter of the solo gamers out there. And so Dawn of Ulos is a 1 to 5 player economic fantasy game. You play as one of these 5 gods, and the world has just been born. And there's these rifts that are opening up, and these factions, some orcs and some ogres and goblins are flooding into the world. And you, as one of these gods, you're kind of manipulating them. So you're investing, for the economic term, investing in these different factions and then helping terraform the world, which help grow their region. And then you get these faction cards, which represent, they're kind of like stocks in another economic game, but you get these cards that represent stocks in these different factions. And then as they grow, they become more valuable, so buy low, sell high kind of thing. And then when the regions on the board connect, then those different factions are in conflict, and then everybody's fighting. So everybody at the table gets to play cards. Basically, they're playing their stocks. They're giving up some of their stocks to boost the strength of the different factions to try to get them to kind of be the victor or the loser of the different factions. And then you flip over the cards and see what the result was. And the losers get wiped off the board to then they can come back on the board later. And the winners take over all the losers' land. And so that makes all the faction cards that you have for that faction, go up in value. And the people who had a bunch of cards for the losing faction go down in value. So that happens over the course of the game. You also get you can get these little rift tokens that give you one-time use abilities. Each of the different factions have their own power that you can play their faction cards to take advantage of their power. There's 10 different factions in the game. You're going to play with 5 at a time. The board is configured of 6 different map tiles that you can configure in a bunch of different ways. So there's a lot of variability within the game. And basically, once 2 of the factions kind of get big enough, they reach legendary status, it triggers the end of the game. And then you basically see what all your faction cards are worth and see who has the most favor. So favor is the currency in the game. And probably the moment that I love most about this game is like when conflicts are resolved and there are these really dramatic kind of changes of both the landscape and of the valuation of everybody's kind of stock portfolio and these different fantasy factions. And I just really love those dynamic moments and the fact that everybody was participant in how that turned out. So there's a little bit of trying to count your neighbor's cards and figure out like what other people are trying to do. So there's a lot of game. And I love games that do this. There's a lot of game like that's above the board. There's a lot of, it's not all about the pieces. It's about like interacting with the people at the table and trying to anticipate what they're going to do. So that's Dawn of Ulos. It's on Kickstarter right now. And then we'll do a pledge manager afterwards, and it'll deliver. The plan is for July of next summer, and so that people have it in their hands by Gen Con is the goal.
And so you publish a lot of your designs through Thunderworks, but this isn't one of yours. I mean,
Right.
What was the process of getting this game signed?
Yeah, so about half of the titles from Thunderworks are my designs, and then about half of them are from other designers. Being a publisher and a designer at the same time is a pretty can be challenging balancing those things. And I love elements of both. But this one in particular was pitched to me at a convention, I don't know, 3 years ago. This has some DNA from other games that I really like that I don't see that much of, at least not anymore. So, there's definitely some DNA from the 1960s game Acquire. It's got some Small World in it. It had the tiles are really interesting. I really like the variability, and Jason showed it to me, and it was like nothing that I'd seen at least in a long time. And I was like, well, yeah. Especially because I could definitely see it sliding into the world that I'd already been creating really easily. I was like, yeah, let's just do this game. This is cool. So, I have my own designs that I'm always working on, and some of them kind of get further than others. And I think some of the reason why I haven't been publishing as many of my own games is just because the company's been growing and like the personnel hasn't been growing at the same speed. And as a one-man company, you have to wear a lot of hats, and that means you get to spend less time on everything. So as we've been kind of adding people to the company and kind of offloading those responsibilities to other people, I'm freeing up my time to do more design work. So I think in the future you'll see more designs from me. But this one just came to me as a pitch, and I thought it was cool, and I couldn't see passing on it. I couldn't see anybody else doing it because I had a very clear idea of what I wanted it to be.
So what are the vital statistics then? When can people pledge until? How much does it cost? All of that sort of good stuff.
Oh, yeah. So the 27th of September is the date that the Kickstarter closes. The pledge is for the base game by itself is $59 US. And then with obviously there's some shipping on top of that, which we'll charge in the pledge manager. We're also offering metal favor tokens or metal coins for the game, which you can get that added to your pledge as well. And it also comes with like a free mini expansion that adds some more rift tiles to the game to add even more variability. So that's kind of it. We're currently in the second week of the campaign. It's a 3-week campaign, so we're about halfway there, and we've already hit the funding goal, and we're just kind of knocking down some stretch goals, making the game even cooler. Kind of my philosophy about stretch goals is that I try, I really don't like adding anything that's like super gameplay related, because I want to make sure that everything in the game has the proper amount of time allocated to it for playtesting and make sure it's super solid. And like once the Kickstarter is done, once I go to the Kickstarter, like design is done. Like there's no additional things. Everything has to be super well tested and in a good spot. And then and that just ensures that like I can deliver on these delivery timelines that I've set, right? So, but we've got a bunch of cool stretch goals that are kind of increasing the quality of the materials. So that's like thicker punch board, nicer cards. We have a really nice plastic insert we're hoping to add. So, yeah, just that is the project in a nutshell. It's the next game in the role player line, and it has unique mechanisms in comparison to anything else that we've done in the role player line.
Fabulous. Well, Keith Matejka, thanks very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the 5 Games for Doomsday news. To listen to past episodes, you can go to 5gamesfordoomsday.com, or to back the show, you can go to patreon.com/5G4D. So, join us again next month for some hot and spicy 5 Games for Doomsday
news.